Ball team. Joe, bigger legs.
Well, when Bill told me I'm going to Washington, D.C. early tomorrow morning, I took my night off in Washington to come here tonight because I thought this would be a lot of fun. It has really been a lot of fun. I went back for all this history that I haven't gone through in 50 years now, and it was just great. So we thank you for allowing us to be a panel to describe to you, if you don't remember, the 1950 basketball team. It was really an amazing team. And we really were headed in a historic team. We were designated as the greatest basketball team in the history of Hammonton High School. And I think that still holds true till today. I don't know if you live in town and you live in town, but I don't think any teams have ever approached that.
I can guarantee you the last 60 years.
So I think we're the greatest basketball team in history. And I'll tell you what, what else in history. We played in the 32nd annual basketball tournament in the finals of the state, and March 18th, 1950, in Elizabeth Armory. And to get there, we had beaten Pemberton 42-31. Then we beat Pippin 50-40, and then we beat Gloucester in that famous game at the Camden Convention Center. Beat them 54-42. And that's when they had the big fight after. That was for the South Jersey Championship. And then we went up to Roselle Park, and we actually went to Camden Armory in Elizabeth, New Jersey, to play Roselle Park, and their state finals. We lost by 2 points. Now, Nick has been a referee for the last 40 years or so. He's refereed a lot of games my children and my grandchildren have played. And he's one of the good referees. Most referees are all against.
His kids always won. That's why. Had they lost, he would have said.
Anyway, we lost by 2 points, but to make a little excuse if I can, we were in North Jersey. We're supposed to be in Central Jersey. But now they play neutral courts in their courts. In the Elizabeth Armory was an old dilapidated building. It rained like hell, and the rain was coming into the thing. We had to stop the game several times, mop up the floor. The school board went out because I guess of an electrical problem with the water. We didn't know what time it was. We had to listen to the referee every once in a while to call the time to us. And then finally, we were in North Jersey, enemy territory, with enemy referees, not Jersey referees, so that was all not very fair. But we lost by 2 points. Yeah, big game anyway, didn't we?
We were ahead, what, 5 points?
We were ahead.
A couple
We were ahead. We were ahead. They beat us in the last 8 seconds.
We had no idea what time it was?
No, we didn't. We didn't know anything about it.
We probably could have tied it up if Vince Dorrance, you probably know him better than I do. He's probably the best football player team on Hammonton. He was a center, went to Alabama. He centered the ball back. He probably thought I was a kicker because he threw the ball from top of the key to me underneath the basket. My little fingers weren't strong enough to lead the ball right out of bounds. Probably never know if I would have made the layup. Probably not, but at least I would have had a shot.
Yeah, you were true. We talked. Anyway, I'd like to just give you, again, because I had so much fun doing this, Bill. I went through my scrapbook, which is about that thick, just for high school. Because I'm a keeper and my wife is a thrower out. One of the days she's going to throw me out. I have a scrapbook that thing. I went through the whole darn thing and I had a lot of memories and laughs by myself as I went through it. Just a little history about Hammonton High School basketball that you may or may not know. We started playing basketball at the turn of the century. In 1903 we had 2 games. Mostly against Atlantic City away. We played all our games away because we had no gym, we had no coach. There were no scholastic rules, so anybody that wanted to play basketball played, because whether you went to school or not, you played basketball. That's there were no rules. We were basically an independent team, and we were called the Shield of Honor basketball team for Hammonton. And we did okay without a coach. And we did okay until World War I when we finally got a coach. Games were played in Jackson Hall, which is on 2nd Bellevue Avenue. The building there, they still exist on the 2nd floor. And the ceilings, of course, were low, so you could shoot shots like he shot. You could just sort of direct it because the ceiling was so low. You hit the ceiling that was out of bounds. Then we played the Hammonton Park Hall. I say we, I mean the basketball team. And they played Hammonton. And then finally, the problem with Hammonton Park Hall was there was no heat, no lights. So the players and the parents had to bring lanterns. And lanterns were supposed to supply the heat and the light. And the only problem was it was very cold those days, and most of the games were canceled because it was too cold. Every year of basketball game being canceled because it was too cold. Anyway, they switched over to, in 1950, they switched over to Myers Hall. We had a coach, and we took basketball very seriously. So 20 to 50, those 30-year periods, we won 84 games and lost 29, which is not too bad. They're beginning to develop a pretty good program. But the guy that really developed the program of basketball and Hammonton was Bill Capello, an absolutely fabulous, great coach. We had good teams before us and some good teams after us. But I think the epitome of it all was the 1950 team. But Bill Capello was a gem, and he was absolutely a disciplinarian. And I remember so well when he had rules, you know, said them once at the beginning of the year, and that was it. No smoking, no drinking, and no fooling around. And we did follow the rules except for one. Jack Abbott, I'm not talking about the dead or anything, but Jack used to smoke. So I went up to him personally, and I said, Jack, you gotta stop smoking right now. Give me your cigarettes. He's really not. Give me your cigarettes. That's smoking right now. I said, because he's going to catch you. He catches you off the team. You're the only big man we have. He was 6'5". That's like small now, but he's the only, I said, we need you for the rest of the year. So you don't smoke until the end of basketball. And you know he never did either. So we're very lucky then. But anyway, we had some very good teams before us. In the late 40s, we had Scoochy Delarenz. Yeah. Anybody remember Scoochy Delarenz? John Delarenz, Vince's older brother. And we had Al Macy, who was 6'4", he was supposed to be tall. And then we had the Andy Christos, who was a fast little point guard. These are all the guys that they had before us, and they had some good teams. They could have led the way, paved the way for us. And then this 50 team came, and the 50 team was made up of 13 players. 6 were seniors, these two, plus Vince Delarenz, and Jack Abbott, and Donald Ross, and John Palmer. There were 3 juniors, Nick and I, and Dudley Johnson. There were 4 sophomores, Bob Pipparata, and Jack Raymond, and Frank Lasasso, and Rodney Kramer. But that was our team. And actually, there were some good teams in South Jersey. Acorn was always tough. This kid, Vern Limpkin, who was the center about 6'8", he was like a giant those days. And Ocean City, who was that guy named Jim Izzard, who was really another huge guy. And we had to play tough against them. They played tough against us, but we always beat them. And I do think that, you know, we had to play tough for you. So mostly the year was composed of 6 players, you know, and we see 4 of them here, plus Vince, plus Jack Abbott. We played most of the time, and then when we got really ahead, then we put some of the other players in. I think you have to understand that the spirit was very good when we got that 50 team. The gym at Hammonton High was a big gym in those days, but it was filled up every game. As a matter of fact, you couldn't eat supper. You had to go there for the JV game to get a seat, or not you stand up, and if not, you weren't even let in. So it was packed every game. A lot of school spirit. We had cheerleaders that were terrific. They're different now. I've been following sports scene in South Jersey, as you have, for 50 years now. My children play ball, now my grandchildren all play ball. It's different now. The cheerleaders are really good, but they do acrobatics now. They jump all over the place. And they themselves know the cheer. Like my kids go to Haddonfield High School, my grandchildren. We have 38 players on the team, which is a very small team. We have 32 cheerleaders. You know, they're good, and what they do, and they cheer, and they all know the cheers, but nobody else does. None of the fans react. Well, that was not so in our day. we used to practice sessions. We had practices with the cheerleaders. The whole school was there, and they taught the whole school the cheers. And I can remember very vividly. You haven't got the rhythm. You haven't got the jazz. You haven't got the team that Hammonton has. Hammonton, haven't you heard? We say our team's good, solid the word. So embedded in my mind now. But you know what? When they went out there for the silence, when they started to cheer, the whole gym stood there and cheered. You can knock the roof off. That was really great team spirit. The fans and the parents and the whole town was there for these games. And what spirit? They really, I do know, Jimmy Rollins and the Phillies just the other night said, the fans are the 10th player on our team. And well, they were the 10th player, they were the 6th player on our team. They were always with us and really great. And when I say cheaters, I can mention some names too, and you probably remember them all. Marie Mortellite, Joan Berger, Jackie Duberson, Dottie Pankowski, Joan Cassetta, Rita Salona, and Dolores Amarado. They were our cheerleaders. They were terrific. They didn't flip around each other, but they got them. Anyway, I think, our team was good in the sense that we played as a team. We were very serious-minded. Coach Capella kept us focused all the time, and I do think, Sonny, if we had a clock, we still would have beaten those guys. Yeah. Because the time ran out of us, we didn't know what time it was. Of course, it might have been the referees. Anyway, I think I'm going to stop there and let everybody else say some stories, because there are a lot of stories. The only one that I want to tell, and then I'll leave it up to you guys, was that whole year the scores were low then, like 40 to 30, 45 to 32. Now that they go into the 100, they only do shoot the ball. We play defense. We play top D, and nobody shot unless you had a good shot. They just were a different kind of basketball. I think that you have to understand that that's the way basketball was played then. All the games we played, the 22 games we played that year, there was only one that was an absolute blowout. We blew out St. Joe's 94 to 36. And I know that game very well because of Boop Moore's lead. I was the point guard, and I could take the ball out, and right before halftime, with 2 seconds to go, I just threw the ball to Boopie. And he stood right there at the end of the court, threw it like a baseball, and it went in. How the hell did you do that?
It hit the backboard, it hit the rim, hit the backboard, hit the rim, hit the backboard, boom.
I didn't want to say it's lucky. It wasn't lucky.
You practice that?
Skill, I practiced it all.
Oh, yeah.
About the crowd, he's right on that one. And I remember after the game, you lay in bed and your ears just literally rang. I mean, the sound was so deafening, and it didn't stop, because that's how those people backed us up. Absolutely true.
You couldn't even hear the whistle of the referee. I mean, you just played on and played about at least 2 or 3 seconds later. You finally decided, hey, you better stop because nobody else would.
When you took the ball out in the court, there was maybe, 3 feet around.
Oh, yeah.
And you actually had to get in the crowd because they had that whole gym filled up. Right, all the bleachers. It was unbelievable. And the away games was the same thing.
You graduated at Hammonton in high school, so you know what we're talking about, that small gym. Yeah. It was an asset to us because most people didn't play in that small gym. They played in longer gyms, wider gyms, and it was an advantage. But it was a disadvantage when we went to the bigger gyms. Yeah. We tried to get as many home games as we can, but Capella's honesty was he just mapped it out, he 50-50. But Joe mentioned it, that he's one reason why I went to school. He and he had Mrs. Gouligat and
Quickly out, it was great.
Paul Sienna. The three of them are responsible for me getting to college, and only because of the discipline they had with us. And I was scared of women. I was scared of fellows. I never had most of those women. I thought my wife was tough. She was pretty good.
He's being humble because Coach Mortellite thought so much of he that he sent him to Guilford College, North Carolina, which is where he went. So he sent him to his own college because I want you to go play my school. I thought that was great.
I went down there, I couldn't compete the way he did. I never knew he was that good of an athlete. He never mentioned it. I mean, he was all...
Very humble guy.
Yes, and he was all North Carolina, all Southeast. All the schools weren't that big. Guilford fit in with them. They decided to get big, Guilford stayed small. But I'm only saying that because of what he taught us, discipline and athletically. I was prepared for college. The other two, academically, I'm not so sure I was prepared there, but I got through.
I guess the way to put it best is that we were very talented. We practiced a lot. We did nothing but play ball. Every chance we had, we weren't working on the farm, we were playing ball. So we were very talented. On the other hand, he capitalized on that talent. He gelled that talent together to make this superb team.
I don't know if I got this name right correctly because I don't. Name's Ed Molnar. I think he should deserve a lot of credit.
Yes, he did.
Because he taught us, I remember, it was like, I guess I'd be maybe 45, 46, we were in seventh grade, we'd have the gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he had the gym with these little kids. And he taught us how to play basketball, and we always liked the games. We used to play. Johnny Lewis had a Oaks had a high school. We had an Oaks in high school.
What?
Oaks, there's a boy by the name of Oaks.
Who knows? I don't know.
Anyway, he had court, and we'd go back there and play all the time, only because Al got us to play. And when Coach Capella got all of us, he just had to fine tune this and show us what the plays were, because we didn't run the plays when we were playing. We just got the ball, dribble, shoot, got the ball, dribble, shoot.
Al Molnar was the...
Was it Johnny A?
Johnny, yeah, right, a lumberyard.
Yeah.
He had the best.
I was trying to think what.
My age, because when we think, we're supposed to think accurately.
Well, I was just a freshman, so.
I was a sixth grader when I really started playing team basketball, not just important back in the yard. But I remember Al Molnar was an extreme disciplinarian also, but a very fair but very hard guy. And the first thing he said to us, I was 6 years old, the big guy, he said, there'll be no fooling around, we're playing basketball. If any fooling around, I'll hit you in the head like that, you get out of the gym. He said, hit his head like that. And there on then, we're a little fooling around. He wouldn't say a word. Sonny, tell me a story.
On the weekends, Saturday, Sundays and college, but we used to sneak into the gym. And we'd go up early in the morning, and we'd never come out of the gym till 4 or 5 o'clock. Well, they found out about it. So what we used to do, we used to stuff, I remember, we used to stuff paper in where the door lockers, so that we could open the door, it wouldn't lock. Well, they found that out, so they took the paper out. Then we would go into the bathroom, we'd jar the window open and leave it open, and we'd sneak through the window and get in the gym. And we did.
Sure, well, I would never.
Boopie made me do it.
We were only young, we were underclassmen, you guys.
About Coach Capelli, I'll never forget when I first started with him. He had, let's get the ball, and he had one guy dribble. And then he had another guy stay down the other end, and he would give 2 guys the ball. One guy would dribble, and the other guy would throw the ball. And he would say, now, how'd that ball get, who got there first? He wouldn't let us bounce that ball more than once unless it was a drive to the back. We had to pass. Correct. And that developed teamwork. It really did. It got us where, as soon as we got the ball, we're looking for Of course, we didn't have to look for
We
one,
didn't
they
have
just
too
threw it
far,
in
we
the
knew where we
basket.
had to throw it.
Yeah,
And we knew who was gonna be down there too.
I know that's true because I was the point guard. I took the ball out.
And Wendy was there.
That's right.
When the ball went up in the air, Wendy was starting going.
He was right at the other end.
We know where he was.
They called that cherry picker. Like, don't play defense, just run down the other end. As soon as you get the ball, throw it to me, just score 2 points. But I do remember that what you just said was absolutely true. Nowadays, all you do is they take the ball out, they dribble all over the place, and they'll never stop dribbling. We weren't allowed to dribble. We were a team. So I took the ball out, usually threw it to Boopie, and Boopie threw it to somebody, and somebody said, I only scored 66 points that whole year in 20 games. I was like 2 points a game or 3 points a game. You know why? Because I never saw the ball again. I threw it to him and it was gone. They threw it around until somebody shot it. It was fantastic. I thought it was just the epitome of teamwork. Tremendous.
And so he was a good playmaker. I just like a shooter.
Oh, he loved to shoot.
You don't do anything when you dribble the ball, except get into trouble.
The one game that really sticks in my mind was against Egg Harbor. And they were 3 points ahead. And Wendy got fouled. And the game was just about over. So I told Wendy, I said, if you make the first shot, try to miss the one on, let the ball come on my side. And it did, and it just worked out perfect. He made the first one, and the second one come out, reached up and tapped it in, and the bell rang, and we tied the game, and we went on to win the next inning.
You don't go 22-2 or 22-3 unless you get shots like Boopie did. Like, you gotta have luck too.
Yeah.
The Phillies have to have luck, and they didn't have too much of a
Why would you think we went 22-2 because the other teams were pansies? They were not pansies. They were very good. Egg Harbor was a big rivalry. Yes, tremendous. Ocean State was always a big, tough team. Pleasant was
Pleasantville.
terrific. And these were good teams. We just had to play 100% the whole game for us to beat them. To have that kind of record, 20-2, in those days was very difficult to do. Nobody was undefeated in those days. It was just one of those things.
I thought Gloucester was the toughest team I faced all 22 games. They weren't really as good as we were finesse-wise, basketball, but they were good. They had 56 fouls calls, so you know how rough it was. They by far gave me personally the biggest problem.
We scored 13 points that game, was not so bad.
Well, that's because I beat Vince down the court.
But Boopie hasn't had a chance to talk. Why don't you tell us about the Gloucester game? And afterwards.
All I know is, I've been suffered all my life, but I lived next to him, about 50 feet from me. So, when we go out and play ball in the backyard, it wasn't funny. I mean, he was 6 feet, I'm 6 feet, he could jump up and grab the rim, I couldn't even jump up. So, he made me a player because I had to make the shot. If not, I wasn't getting the ball. Now, he's been a pain in the neck all my life. He could kick a football 70 yards. He could throw a baseball 90 miles an hour. And I had to put up with him. One day we were practicing and he struck me out a few times and we were going home. And I said, Sock, you know, you could have eased up and let me hit the ball. He stopped, he said, Boop, I did ease up. No, he really may be a nicer player. You got to jump guys 6'7". 6'7".
He had a cool shot.
Well, I had to make it because he wouldn't give me another shot. That's the truth.
What about the Gloucester game?
I don't know, that in Gloucester game. Somebody punched me.
That was they had a fight after. No, Frankie Malea got punched in the nose. They had a bloody nose. They took a hospital.
And
That was a rough day.
and somebody hit my Uncle Jimmy, and the person that hit him was one of us. Sorry, it's surprised to beat us. There was a fist going all over the place. And Mrs. Bellarenz with that umbrella. That was a classic.
I thought we were civilized people got to be That was a rough day.
You're up, Jimmy.
You playing Riverside?
Not Gloucester.
Gloucester?
Yeah, South Jersey.
Well, they're bad people in Gloucester.
That was played at the Camden Convention Center.
Yeah.
That's where the Camden Base came over.
That gym was 2 miles long.
I know.
The pros played there.
Yeah.
But the difference, as Joe said, I officiate, well, I did, last year was my last year after 35 years officiating basketball. And I constantly see the things that they do that we never had an opportunity to do. Or we just couldn't do it. I mean, they're so much better shooters, they're so much quicker. They run plays designed, and when they don't run plays designed, they're taken up pretty quickly. And we've got kids scoring 100 points a game. Kids scoring 70 points a game. I felt that I couldn't keep up running with my voice. I said, by the time I sit back and live another year, if I work another game, I would never live another year. But they're good basketball players out there.
He's too humble to tell you in the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is a big paper, there's a feature article on Dick Guerere, umpiring for referee for 35 years. And tribute, what a tribute they gave him was tremendous. I called him on the phone, he said, I didn't see you, look at the paper. What a hell of a
You should have brought it.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that.
I got paid well for it, so.
They keep you in shape.
Yeah, that's probably the reason why I still do it, because I would still want to do it, because I see myself, I know myself, I know what I would be doing, watching TV, skate, anything. And I would, but I got too lazy, I was so like working out, relying off, just to get in shape. But I enjoy it. I officiated all 4 sports, football, basketball, baseball, softball. That's the way I kept these. I couldn't coach anymore. We had rules that said if you're an administrator, you couldn't coach. So I decided to take the big money with administration. You know all about the administrator's salaries. You hear about it every day. So I took part of that. And Diane back there was my boss, and she wouldn't give me a break at all. She had the audacity to come up and hug me and kiss me. And say, I missed you. Yeah, like when I saw her in the halls, where you going out here, you boy. It was fun work. She was a good person. I said enough basketball. I said enough teaching. I said, I think I thank you too, Judith, for having us out this evening.
Thank you.
And it was nice. Nice of you to do
We're
that.
honored.
I tried to get to see both basketball games in Hammonton, but first of all, I couldn't get in the gym anyway, but they still were in winning. I just sit down and read here. But they still had some fans here, and it was fun. Then you start officiating yourself, so you don't get time to watch anybody else.
Well, the most important thing, I know when Coca Cola died, he was married to Tilda Koya. She was a good friend of my family, my father and his Nick Koya were best friends. And I wrote her a tribute to Bill, this personal thing made to her. And she said it was so nice that she called the Hammonton News, and they called me and said, can we print this? I said, sure, it's nothing secret, and that was the truth. But I talked about each other's patience, each other's discipline, each other's teamwork, each other's collegiality, each other's what it meant to be a team member. Each was all those things which I really have used all my life with my own children and now my grandchildren, and all through my life as a doctor, teaching the residents and the students that you're a team. You have to work as a team. And I know you hear it now, there's no I in the word team, but even then, before that even came out, I was using the same thing. I think that those are the things he taught us. Miss Boopie, I used her teachings all through my life because she taught us public speaking and talk about strict, or she was strict as hell. But she taught us all the principles, and I had learned that and went on to college and medical school. I've given so many lectures in my life and did a lot of public speaking in my life, and she's the one that gave me those fundamentals that I used. And Mr. Sibley, we had, so he taught me math and trigonometry. There was only 3 kids in our class. Most people didn't take trigonometry because it was too hard. But I wanted to go on the medicine, so I wanted to take it. And he was terrific. It was just like a private tutor. And what I learned from him, I carried all through my college algebra and all my math classes. So we had some really fine teachers. I'm so glad to tell you that that little high school, Hammonton High School, and we were little compared to some of the other schools that were so big, like Atlantic City and Franklin, Billville. These were big schools. Little Hammonton High School had some good teachers and showed us some good principles. Things that we were able to carry out the rest of our life and still use. So I thought it was just great.
I'll tell you one thing that impressed me with him. And we got a little rowdy practice, you know, and he pulled us together and he made a comment. Yeah, well, then he was another guy right there. He said to me, he said, you know, I can't holler at you guys like I holler at the other ones because you guys get offended by it. So he knew his players, and he would adjust his coaching with the players he had. He would develop rather than force them to. He was an amazing man. He really was.
He got the most out of us.
Yeah.
So we had some talent. He gelled us together and took out the
Tell us about the after the Roselle Park game. I recall there was a depression went through the whole school and through the team, and I'm pretty sure that Bill Capello was the one who actually counseled the team, and that even though it was a loss, that you were still winners. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I want to talk about something just a little different. Bill Capello was really our basketball coach. He also was the assistant football coach. He also was the head baseball coach. He also was the athletic director. Now they have 12 people doing what he did, right? At least 12 people. So I think that as talented as he was and when he got moved to basketball, he did even more in baseball.
Yeah.
He was one hell of a baseball coach. He and
one of them. You should have seen his college. I don't have him up here, but the records he committed that he developed in college, they still stand after. He was down there, I guess, in
10 years. Ross said he was 15 years.
You know, I never knew this. What you're saying right now?
He
I
was
never knew this.
left hand was left-handed batter. I played for him in baseball, and I wish I could hit a third of what he hit, and I would be probably close to 250. He never hit below 300 in college. They keep saying how nice he was, how gentle he was, and so forth. But he could be harsh at times too. But he would do it at the right time. I've worked with somebody.
Somebody said he knew how to handle this point.
Exactly.
That's right.
I worked with someone who you walk in her office and she bust the hell out of you. You left you thinking, hey, you did too bad. And she Bill was the same way. He'd pull you aside and wouldn't scream at you, but he'd let you know that's not why we didn't teach you that, did we? No. Well, then why do you do it? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You did it. Well, I don't know. Then don't do it if you don't know. It makes sense. It didn't make much sense then. Now it makes sense. I just said, yes, okay. A lot of things that happen didn't make much sense to me at those days. Look around the room, not what ages, but most of you probably have grandchildren that are in school, and it's not like it was when I even started. Because when I started, like Joe mentioned, all the traits he brought with people who worked with him in school. And Bill was one of the better ones I had, because I had him in phys ed, I had him for three sports. And he taught me a lot of sportsmanship, how to handle kids and so forth. And for my first 10 or 15 years when I started working, I guess from 59 to 60 to 70, I guess, everything just worked right fine. You got a kid, you didn't like him, bang, get out of this gym and do something like that. Nowadays, if you look at him cross, you got to suit against you. So the whole thing has changed. The athletics changed, the teaching's changed. That's why I quit basketball. That's why I quit teaching. I can do what I want to do whenever I do it. But I just think that what they taught me, I still command in my grandchildren now and my children naturally. And so you never lose it. If you got it, you won't lose it.
When I first started pitching, I remember practice. He used to stand right behind me, and as I would throw the ball, he'd instruct me.
He had the knack, he could pick up the ball. Once it come down the plate, he could see whether it was spinning, whether it was straight, whether it was. I didn't even think about spinning, I just did.
Now I just throw a ball.
The ball hit the bat, I didn't hit the ball.
I didn't even know what change of pace meant till.
Well, those days, he threw heat. He threw about 90 miles an hour in high school, which was pretty good. We didn't even, there was no such term as heat at that time. When he threw heat, he really was a great pitcher.
Yeah, I was his friend, he wouldn't let me hit. I did ease up, I did, he didn't ease up. He showed me up. Disgusting, isn't it?
You guys have any questions, anything, no questions? If you saw or you didn't see or you heard and you didn't believe?
What two teams did you lose?
Say again?
You had two losses.
We lost, yes, I do. We lost to
Wildwood?
Egg Harbor,
Regional.
and we lost to Lower Camden County Regional High School.
And that's when they,
47,
that's when they had the Liptus, you remember? You
Yeah,
had
that's
that name?
right.
Yeah, they lived in Blue Anchor and went there. And both of them,
He was big.
they had one little Irish kid, and I said, I'm gonna say Irish.
Hey, watch how you say that, Irish kid.
I would use different terms, but there are too many. Anyway, he was just like a little gnat. He would get in your back pocket, and he would be just there all the time, nipping with his mouth. And you just like to turn around banging one, but you couldn't. But they were a Group 3 school against Group 1. They had 800 some kids, I think.
They did.
Almost 1,000.
They're a regional school.
We had maybe 100 kids.
Well, that's where you taught.
Yeah, I started out there, yeah.
That game,
I started out and ended there, in fact, yeah.
that regional gave me a lot. That Ray Liptus is the one that scored the point that, and he went on to Wake Forest to play pro, played Division I college football.
That's exactly
He
right.
came back and he was an administrator back.
Yeah, he went up.
He passed away early in life. Then
That's
Bob
Bob.
followed him a couple of years later.
Yeah.
He was a good athlete.
Good baseball.
Yeah, Bob was free sports. He could do anything. Football, basketball.
That little red-headed rat kid. Fouled you out, fouled me out. We were expendable, we were juniors.
Yeah, we should
He didn't
make
really need us that much, even the big seniors. And he used to put us on as their best player all the time. And I fouled out, and then you fouled out, right, vice versa. And he just killed us, that little kid. He was fast, he was sharp, and a deadly shooter. I'll never, I can picture him right now. Son of a gun.
I saw in my research that, talking about foul shots, that Boopie was by far, had the highest amount of fouls scored. And I just wondered, right, did you, I can't remember whether you took the.
We started other hand, and then we kept on going this way, and finally, I'll never forget, I give up, go ahead, do it that way.
This way.
Yeah. Like you all were doing a good job, I think it was about 60%, something like that. Right?
He was a really good shot.
But you made me the good job.
Yeah, right.
You never gave me the ball.
It's the truth, though.
You could jump.
None of us shot jump shots, but Jackie Ring,
Jack Raymond started.
he started that, and I told him he did a jump shot, but he was backward. That was only 3 years ago.
Yeah, Jack, you're
1 year behind you.
yeah, behind us.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is really so neat to us as not historians, but people interested in Hammonton history is as you, the way you described the fans in the town and the excitement, and everybody learned the cheers. And I remember reading about when St. Joe in 48, 49, if you had to get if you wanted to ski, you had to get there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's right.
And
Well, that's the team that beat Hammonton.
yes,
Right, the first time.
I remember.
Yes.
And we used to practice together.
Billy Ortilli and Jimmy Brodeo and Sammy Donio.
Baron?
Yeah, and these are.
Baron or Barrel?
Yeah.
Farrell.
Farrell. That was the team that beat, the first team that beat Hammonton.
First team. And I played on
Let's say, right.
I played on the JV team, and we were winning all the games, and we went to St. Joe, we won, and then the varsity lost. So I go into the gym the next day for practice, and Bill Capella hollers over, Boopie, you're on varsity. I played varsity from that day on. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we didn't lose too many games. Yeah.
How lucky we were to have people like that teaching us, that set us in the right direction for the rest of our lives. There was ultimate respect by the players, like us. No, there was ultimate respect by Coach Capella for us. We respected each other. That's why we did it the right way. That's why we persisted. Because without respect,
You know, when we came back, I could never call him the post coach.
There's no way you can say that. No way.
Nowadays, they come back and I know what they call it. I know what they call it.
I think we were so lucky to be young at that time.
Yeah, I think the 50s, 45, 50, about 60, 65 to start getting. Well, we got the drugs about 65 in Lower Camden County. New York had them about 45 figures, but we drift down.
We didn't
And then we got
anything
the,
like that.
and then we got the racial problems. And after that, we start getting more drugs. And after that, I retired.
well, I think we have to also, when we think, tell us so many times already, certainly, we never forget that. We have to thank our parents too. You know, they were hard-working farmers, man. They were tough people. They had tough times, and they allowed us to go to Hammonton High School, and they allowed us to play basketball, football, baseball, even though there was hard work doing the farm. My father, bless me, only went to the 7th grade because he was one of 11 kids, and he had the oldest boy, and he had to support the family. So he never got the opportunity. We had the opportunity.
I don't want to obviously that's funny, but I just had one parent, and I never knew a father. He died when I was 3, so she worked in the factory making $35 a week. She made that on a good year.
I think there were better times back then than now.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, yeah. We always had clothes, we had food.
No question about it.
You were never, you don't even, I know everybody grew up together, but on the other hand, you had a mother that loved you, worked her
At that
for
time, I
you,
didn't think
and
so.
still, she allowed you to play ball, and she didn't have to. She just said, you gotta work after school.
That's right.
That's right.
I didn't know what work after school was yet.
Nick, how did you get to go to college? On scholarship?
Yeah. But it wasn't expensive at that time. I mean, it was a lot of money.
Right, with your mom being by herself. It was all right.
And Bill put a good word and good recommendation. The other 2 people I mentioned, Flossie and those 3 got me in.
And Sheldon Gallagher went to
That's right,
Guilford
Collins
also.
and DeMarco went.
Really Gallagher's school.
The 3 of us went down. I
And Louis
said,
DeMarco.
thank God. I got 3 people I know. Go down there in the South, Italian, Catholic. You don't know what it was like. And I almost went home. And because they didn't come down as soon as I did, because I was down for football, and they came down a little later. When I saw them, I thought, thank God you're here. And they lasted a year or 2. And
You
they
were
said,
always a Yankee. You know?
oh, God. What are you doing? Catholic, Italian,
I think Bill Capella got the Snooki Benedetto.
yes, Snooki was now. Snooki was coming behind me. In fact, he's doing quite well now. He retired.
Al Molitor, I can recall that even, I was in the class of 55, and the same way that he brought pound teams to us, you know, when we were in 5th, 6th grade, and he was responsible for, you know, starting us to that next generation. Lindsay and I, and
Once he retired,
Oh, yeah.
I saw him a few years ago down in Maine, working cocaine down there.
I don't think he's even doing that now.
Does anybody have any questions though? Because if you do, if we can answer them, fine. If we can't, we'll lie.
We've been doing it all night.
I'm the one that told the truth. I'll tell you right now. And I didn't go to college.
There's my, I have proof that I have a basketball letter I got 50 years ago. And I think something was going to bring down to show you all. They don't get them nowadays. All my grandchildren, they don't get anything. They don't get letters. Things like that. That's why. We used to, as soon as we got these purple soda more slow white, we were so proud to wear this letter around. I probably would forget this.
You're not gonna throw that one away.